Indeed, powerful voices in the academy tell us that science makes belief in God and human significance untenable. Or as Richard Dawkins, the famed atheist from Oxford, has asserted, the universe we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is at bottom no design, no purpose, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference.
That was Dr. Stephen Meyer. He pretends to be an intelligent scientific voice for theism. He's the director of the Center for Science and Culture at the Discovery Institute, a non-profit, non-think tank pushing, among other things, the pseudoscientific idea of intelligent design, which was struck down in Kitzmiller versus Dover about as brutally as one could imagine, and by a Bush appointee, Judge John E. Jones III, who said simply, "It's not science." If you haven't read the ruling, treat yourself and give it a look. But let's get back to Stevie's video.
But are we the product of such indifference? That is, purely materialistic processes that did not have us in mind, as another scientific atheist has put it? Does the universe have the properties we should expect if this all there is matter vision of reality is correct?
Keep that comment in mind while we look again at that Dawkins quote Stevie put up earlier.
The universe we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is at bottom no design, no purpose, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference.
Okay, so let's get one thing perfectly clear right from the outset. The pitiless indifference of the universe is not debatable. It is an empirical, undeniable fact. And that pitiless indifference is nowhere more obvious or brutal or heartbreaking than it is right here on planet Earth. Pitiless indifference is the brute fact of what we all, every living, breathing, sentient creature here on Earth, experiences on a daily basis. So, the real question then is, do you think this empirically undeniable, pitiless indifference is the result of blind contingent forces, or is this pitiless indifference the result of a creator, who the good folks at my alma mater, PragerU, go Devils, say is all-knowing, all-powerful, and, wait for it, all-loving? If the pitiless indifference of our universe is the result of blind contingent forces, well, that's entirely understandable, right? How could blind contingent forces care about the suffering of sentient beings on some small rock orbiting a rather ordinary star in an endless sea of unconscious matter? Blind, pitiless indifference makes perfect sense. If, on the other hand, the undeniable, pitiless indifference of the universe is the result, the plan of an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving super being, well, then that being has some splaining to do, because that being is not and cannot be blind to our suffering, by definition. But it's so much worse than that, because that being not only sees everything with perfect clarity and watches every moment of our suffering with pitiless indifference, that being is responsible for all of it. With great power comes great responsibility. With all power comes all responsibility. Think about it for a minute. This being knew literally everything that was going to happen in the universe. In fact, if this being created the universe in such a way that certain events happened exactly as he wanted them to happen, the crucifixion, for instance, then he literally planned out every moment which has and will happen in our universe. That's just what you do if you want to remain all-powerful. Stevie's God planned your sister's rape. He planned the cancer of your infant child. He planned every murder, starvation, burning at the stake, every moral atrocity ever committed here on planet Earth, and then sat back and watched, with the pitiless indifference evident to every sentient being who has ever lived in this God-forsaken mess of a universe. Pun intended. Even worse, none of the horrors and deprivations of this universe had to happen. Being all-powerful, he could have done all of it another way. Being all-knowing as well, God could have simply created all the people he knew would make it into heaven already in heaven, and with whatever character or life lessons he wanted them to learn here. Stevie's God is not just pitiless and indifferent. Stevie's God architected every second of our pain, suffering, and misery. He is the designer of our anguish, who doesn't just bring it to life, but having done so, sits back, grabs his bucket of popcorn, and watches it all with pitiless indifference. Stevie's God is as sadistic a creature as can be imagined. The rest of Stevie's video is just more creationist nonsense, already endlessly debunked here on YouTube. Hardly shocking from someone working for the Discovery Institute. Towards the end of that video, though, Stevie says the following.
In my book, Return of the God Hypothesis, I argue that the universe has precisely such properties, and that raises a hopeful possibility, that we are not the product of blind, pitiless indifference, but instead that we were made on purpose, that we were intended.
Stevie's view is that our suffering and God's pitiless indifference to it, the undeniable empirical fact of our existence, is purposeful and intended. How can anyone with even a single brain cell find that idea a hopeful possibility, let alone a comforting thought? For PragerFU, I'm me. Thanks for watching.